In case you didn't know, there was a massive protest earlier today outside BBC's broadcasting house. A group of freedom fighters got together to speak out against ULEZ, Sadiq Khan, and the BBC, the biased BBC. So they were joined by Reform UK, Richard Tice, and of course their mayoral candidates, Howard Cox. We got a few clips for you guys in this video. They all were also interviewed by GB News. We're going to show you those clips. But first, let's go to Richard Tice to see what was happening.
Going.
Here we are outside BBC Broadcasting House. There is a massive, huge demonstration to get Khan out after the result on Thursday when Labour lost because of the terrible ULEZ extension. But Reform UK, we want to get rid of the whole of ULEZ. It's an outrage. Only Reform UK, Howard Cox is the man. Thousands of people here trying to get Khan out. Watch this space.
Loving the energy. I have a feeling Richard Tice had some Red Bull before he made that speech. That was good. That's what we need. Pump up. But on the one hand, you had the by-election that in Oxbridge and Ruislip that showed that people are sick and tired of the consensus being spread by the establishment, especially when it comes to net zero and ULEZ. But you have the Labour Party falling apart over it. The Tories are also having their own problems. Jacob Rees-Mogg is now urging Rishi Sunak's government to stop being a socialist and stop being promoting net zero policies that are at this point net stupid. Howard Cox was also interviewed by GB News about why they were actually outside the BBC. There was a very specific reason. Watch this.
First of all, why specifically are you outside the BBC? What's been going on with Mayor Khan's alleged interference of BBC editorial policy on ULEZ?
Hello, Martin. It's great to be on your show. The producer whistleblower contacted me again about after 4 weeks ago, highlighting the fact that Khan had interfered and written to the head office, BBC headquarters, to say he's not happy with the way ULEZ is actually reported, the negative reporting. And what happened then is the bosses at headquarters wrote or emailed every single one of the BBC and the southern regional offices, all the very experienced journalists, that they could not report on ULEZ unless they got it approved by headquarters. And he told me last night, right up to date, that particular order is still in place. Local journalists cannot report on ULEZ without the permission of headquarters.
Okay, firstly, a quick lesson to the mainstream media, reporters and journalists. When you're interviewing someone during a protest, try to put them away. Put them in a corner somewhere that's slightly quieter, because we couldn't hear what he was saying. But at the same time, that was a good point. We've already reported on this channel a while ago about the collusion between the BBC and Sadiq Khan. It's already been reported, and it's good that Howard Cox is speaking to whistleblowers from the BBC to expose this scandal. I love how Sadiq Khan and his office believe that the BBC have been proactively negative about ULEZ. They did one report that it was slightly more accurate, and apparently that's negative reporting. That's just telling the truth. But they're writing emails and letters to the BBC HQ saying you shouldn't really criticize the establishment. Are you kidding me? But we also had Richard Tice, who was interviewed on GB News about this whole day. Let's go to it.
But Martin, let me be clear. The right thing to do is not only to scrap the extension plan, but also scrap the existing ULEZ. It is an absolute disaster. And be clear, it's a tax on the poor.
Richard, it's fair to say that the victory in Uxbridge, the Tories are claiming as their own. They're claiming they're the party that can stop ULEZ. What would you say to that?
Look, let's be very clear. The Tories are pro-net zero. All of this ULEZ is part of the drive towards net zero, which, as I say, is a tax on the poor. It's impoverishing people. So no, the Tories are not the answer. They won't scrap the existing ULEZ. They won't lift the low-traffic neighbourhoods that are actually increasing pollution, increasing congestion, and they won't lift the 20-mile-an-hour limits, which also are actually increasing congestion. London under Sadiq Khan has become the slowest major city in the world. He's completely failed London. We've got to get London moving, and there's only one person, Howard Cox, who will do that.
Okay, now that's how you do an interview. Much quieter. I can actually listen to it in peace. Also, I love that coughing in the background. There were a lot of good points on this because yes, the Conservatives in London are fighting against ULEZ expansion, but as we keep saying on this channel, they're not against ULEZ. They're simply against the ULEZ expansion. Do you know why? It's because the outer London, who are more Tory and Conservative-minded, they are the ones kicking off. So the opposition that the Tories have in London is mostly about the ULEZ expansion. But we already have an existing ULEZ zone in central London, and Howard Cox so far is the only one who's coming out to actually say we will stop all ULEZ. And I believe the Reclaim Party are also saying the same thing. But in terms of the mayoral candidates, proactive candidates, Howard Cox has been quite out there on this. The Tories are over. And right now, Susan Hall is a pretty solid candidate, but she still has to follow the party line. And that's the main challenge for the London Conservatives. Even if they want to be more conservative than Tory HQ or Downing Street, they're not allowed to. They will be stopped by the Tory machine. So this is the truth about the whole situation in London. But of course, this isn't really a London-centric issue because it's affecting the whole country. You've got the clean air zones in Birmingham. You've got the LEZ in Glasgow. Across the country, Manchester having their own issues. In the name of clean air, these policies are creating more pollution, more traffic. And again, it's nothing to do with the environment. It's a cash cow scheme, and in order to control the public. And every single time there is these tiny authoritarian policies, the tyrannical policies, it's basically like a test zone for the establishment. So, okay, we told people to do this, they didn't rebel, so let's go to the next step and let's try something else. And there's always a slippery slope situation. And if you keep saying yes, or if you essentially stay silent, you might wake up one day and realize your whole life is fully controlled by the state. And this is why people need to wake up sooner than later. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. I'm Mahyar Tousi, and we are the media.